Revenge films.
My name is Jennifer. I live with my husband Thomas and our daughter Kelly. We're a happy family of 3. My husband's family was pretty close by, about 15 minutes away from us by car, but to tell you the truth, I barely see them. Ever since just before my daughter was born, I stopped going to visit them, and there was a certain incident that became the reason behind that. The incident happened about 2 years ago. While I was pregnant, my husband was about to be sent off on a far business trip, and he told me that I should go spend time with his family at his house so that I could relax. And so, for a few days that he was on a business trip, I was going to stay with them. I got along really well with my mother-in-law back then, and every time I went to go visit them, she was always really kind to me. However, this was the first time I was going to stay over there by myself, so I was a little bit nervous. My heart was beating when I arrived, and perhaps that was foreshadowing of the days to come. Because when I got to their house, without my husband being there, my mother-in-law was like a completely different person. The 3 days that I spent at their house was pure hell. When my husband came home from the business trip and I told him about my time at their house, he was furious and told me that I didn't have to go to see his mother anymore. He also told me that if my mom were to contact me, I don't need to answer the phone anytime she called, and I wouldn't answer, and he would call her back on my behalf. With my husband's support, I tried to avoid her as much as possible. As a result of that, even though I was pregnant at the time, my mother-in-law was really terrible to me, and so I tried to avoid her as much as possible. I didn't visit her, nor did I answer her calls. Once I stopped having any contact with my mother-in-law, I was living a stress-free life, even after giving birth, until one day, I got a phone call from my sister-in-law's cell phone. When I answered the phone, to my shock, it was my mother-in-law on the line. "Hello, Jennifer. It's been a long time, hasn't it?" Hello, ma'am. Yes, it's been a while. How can I help you?" Listen. Right now my daughter is pregnant and she is back home, spending her pregnancy here. Is that so? I had decided a long time ago that if I were to ever be in contact with my mother-in-law, that I would get revenge for all those hellish days that I spent with her. And so I had already come up with a number of various plans for that. And at that moment, I recognized that it was my opportunity to put one of the plans into action. And so I decided to put forth my strategy that I had run over and over again in my mind, and that I knew like the back of my hand. Without knowing this at all, my mother-in-law instantly started to complain to me. "You need to hurry up and come back over here. My daughter is trying to clean up the house with her stomach. You need to hurry up and come over here in her place to clean the house." "No thank you, do it yourself, you bitch." Just as I had planned, that's what I replied, and I immediately hung up the phone. But then, not even 5 minutes went by, when I just expected, I got another call from my mother-in-law. When I answered, there was an echo in her voice, and so I recognized that she was on speakerphone in a large room. I could already imagine what her plan was. She must have expected me to say something strong again, and that she would try to get the rest of her family to hear me say that. She had done something similar to me in the past, so I immediately knew what was going on. "Oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry for suddenly hanging up the phone earlier." "You! What did you just say to me a few minutes ago? Why don't you say it again?" My mother-in-law tried to get me to repeat my words earlier, and so I immediately put on my act and played dumb. What are you talking about? The phone hung up unexpectedly, so I'm not sure where we were in conversation. What's the matter?" As I said that nonchalantly, as expected, my mother-in-law started to get pissed off. "Don't play dumb with me. I heard what you said earlier. You called me a witch, and you told me to clean the house, didn't you? You yelled at me." She had raised her voice at this point, so I was a little bit taken aback, but I continued with my innocent act. "Of course, there's no way that I've ever say such a thing to you." "Don't lie to me. You did it, didn't you? Just be honest and acknowledge." "I never said that. I would never say such a thing." "How dare you keep lying to me?" "Do you hate me that much, ma'am? I'm so happy for you that your daughter is pregnant and is going to have children. I'm sure you're going to love that grandchild so much, because you don't adore our child at all, do you?" When I started fake crying, it lit another fire with my mother-in-law, and she became even more angry. "What are you talking about? Whatever, just stop crying and hurry up and come over here and help clean the house. Are you saying that you don't care if my daughter has a miscarriage?" I realized that was my only opportunity, and so I decided to stick the nail in the coffin right there. "What? Wait a minute, ma'am. Are you trying to do your own biological daughter what you tried to do to me when I was pregnant? You made me move around boxes full of apples without any reason around the house, and then you made me clean the front door in the middle of winter in short sleeves without a jacket. And are you even telling her to go out and buy the most heavy things even though you have plenty in your pantry?" When I started talking about all the things that she made me do 2 years ago, my mother-in-law started quietly saying, "What are you talking about?" Suddenly, all the aggression that she had just shown just a few seconds ago turned into a quiet mutter. But then, knowing that my father-in-law and sister-in-law had been listening the entire time on speakerphone, I started to hear their voices in the background. Apparently, my mother-in-law had told them, "Jennifer keeps saying the most horrible things, so stay quiet and just listen to this." And after being told that, they had been staying quiet. But when they heard what I had to say, it seemed like they were no longer able to stay silent, and they spoke up. "Mom, that's what you were doing? I can't believe this! How are you able to do that to somebody who's pregnant? How evil can you be?"
"I didn't know that that's the kind of person you were, Karen!
Jennifer, can you hear me? We were actually worried about you because recently, you haven't come over to see us at all. If there's anything else that my wife has done to you over the years, please tell me. I'm so sorry.
I took the opportunity and ran with it. I told them everything that my mother-in-law had done to me over the years, and when my father-in-law and sister-in-law found out about the true nature about their mother-in-law, they were furious. I was still on the line, and at that moment they began lecturing her. For a while I was listening in on the conversation, but I could tell that my mother-in-law was silent and becoming depressed, and so I decided to leave the rest of them and I hung up the phone. After that, I heard that my mother-in-law was being treated coldly by the rest of the family, and she was no longer able to stand it, and she decided to move out of the house. We found out when Thomas's father called him to confirm him.
I have a bad feeling about this.
What do you mean you have a bad feeling?
Well, even if my mom leaves the family house, it's not like there's anywhere she can go to. So I'm worried that she might come here.
What do you mean? Just as we were having that conversation, out of nowhere the front doorbell to our house rang.
I bet that's my mom.
But it's already this late at night. I can't imagine that it would be... Do you really think so? My husband and I crept towards the front door, and we slowly cracked open the door. Standing there was none other than my mother.
Mom? What are you doing here this late at night?
Hey, Jennifer, this is all your fault. I was kicked out by my own house because of you. What are you going to do about it? What do you mean this is my fault? I do believe that you did all of this yourself.
That's right. You should really stop blaming your own mistakes onto other people.
When my husband said that, even though it was already past 9 p.m. at night, my mother-in-law raised her voice and started throwing a tantrum at her front door. She was screaming and yelling about everything that she didn't like about me and how angry she was that my husband wasn't taking her side. After going on a rant and a tantrum, this time she started talking about what was going to happen next. You two should know that this is all happening because of you, so you need to take responsibility. So you're going to let me live here until my husband forgives me, isn't that right? When my husband heard that, without hesitating, he quickly rejected the idea of letting her live with us. But then, that caused my mother-in-law to become even more furious, and she started raising her voice once again. However, it was going to disturb the neighbors, and we didn't want anybody to call the police, so we told her that she needed to leave. But by the time my mother-in-law refused to listen to anything that we were saying, she was only insisting that she was going to live with us for the time being. But my husband was not going to budge. After doing everything that she had done to me, he said that there was no way that he was going to let her anywhere into our property. Thomas stood his ground and he was refusing to let her step into the property. However, but his mother was stubborn, and they were both standing and going back and forth. But at this point, they both had started raising their voices, and even though our daughter had been sleeping inside the house, she woke up from the yelling sounds of my husband and my mother-in-law, and she started crying. Everything was a disaster. But then, very shortly after that, suddenly the police arrived.
We received a notice from somebody in your neighborhood. What's going on here? I'm terribly sorry for causing such a disturbance.
What the hell do the police want? This is none of your business, so just leave. Get the hell out of my face. To her disbelief, my mother-in-law started yelling at the police, and she was only continuing on with her tantrum in front of them. The police recognized that the root of the problem was her, and seeing that she wasn't going to calm down, and she was only going to continue disturbing the neighbors, the police ended up taking my mother-in-law with them. My husband immediately called his father and informed him that the mother had just been taken in by the police. And then immediately after that, apparently the police also contacted Thomas's father, and so he was going to go all the way to the police station to go pick up his wife. The fact that his wife was in the hands of the police and he tried to go pick her up that late at night, my father-in-law was beyond furious. It wasn't enough just to kick her out of the house at this point, and so he said that he was going to file for the divorce. My mother-in-law was so shocked that she ran out of the house and nobody could contact her. However, no person worried about her, nor did they go find her. Apparently, she ended up all alone with no family around her. After that, my sister-in-law safely gave birth to their second grandchild, and everybody was looking forward to it. Nobody went to go inform Thomas's mother, though, even though I'm sure that she must have been so excited to welcome another grandchild. My mother-in-law was never able to hold the child of her own daughter, so she was going to be left without any family around. Between my father-in-law's Social Security, as well as the fact that he was still helping out with his company's finances, even after retirement, she was living a very, very comfortable life off his salary. But now that she lost all access to that as well, after the divorce went through, she was having to live for herself. As a result of that, she moved into an extremely small apartment, but with the little savings that she had left, she could no longer even pay rent for that, and wasn't able to live alone anymore. According to rumors, I heard that she's living in a dorm these days while working as a janitor to earn money. As for us, the final straw was when she caused a public disturbance and she was taken away by the police, and so we cut off all ties with her. We have no contact with her at all, and will never see her again. And of course, both my father-in-law and my sister-in-law were both tired of her behavior, and for the time being, they were both estranged from her. Because of my revenge plan towards her, my mother-in-law was stuck, having to live her retirement years all by herself in loneliness. In the beginning, she was furious with me and seemed like she was never going to forgive me, but after some time had passed, she sent a letter of apology to our house, addressed to me. I wouldn't be able to forgive her that easily for what she had done to me when I was pregnant, but just knowing that she felt guilty about what she did made me feel a little bit better. I doubt that I'll ever have any contact with her ever again in the future, but I have no doubt that my mother-in-law will be just fine, and no matter where she goes with that stubborn, hot-headed personality of hers. I am also extremely grateful to my husband, who always took my side over his birth mom. From now on, I'm going to continue treasuring this husband of mine, and I look forward to being a happy family of 3.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.